booms that allow you to have your boom a little bit more versatile. One of the things that we ran into about 7 or 8 years ago was that a couple of our DOT customers were using the rotary mowers, going up into the air, cutting the tree limbs off, but there were a couple of things that they were having issues with. Number one, the safety aspect of debris flying when you're cutting 4 or 5 inch limbs off of trees. It's very dangerous because the rotary mowers will tend to throw debris in many different directions, and it can throw it up to 200 yards. So there's got to be a very large safety zone around a rotary mower when it's being used up in the air. What the Virginia DOT asked us to do about 8 years ago was design a head that would allow you to cut the same diameter material as a rotary without the issue of debris flying and giving them a clean cut. One of the big issues is that the limbs, after you go through with a rotary mower, with most operators, looks like a tornado came through and ripped the limbs off. And some people just don't like the way it looks. I've seen advertisements or things in newspapers calling the yellow tornado came through and ripped up all the trees. And of course that was our boom that had come in and done some aerial work. The first head that we developed to accomplish this is called the Timbercat. Y'all are familiar with our sickle bar that's mounted in the middle of the tractor and cuts your brush and your grass. Well, the Timbercat is a very, very slow-moving sickle bar, is really what it is. It's a limb cutter. I actually refer to it as a shear bar. It works just like a sickle bar from a standpoint of you have 2 blades that are push-pulled by a cylinder. Those knives are spaced of the Timbercat over our saw blade type of head. Is that this one is a little bit more indestructible from a standpoint of I would not want to take a saw blade and lay it anywhere near the ground. The nice thing about the Timbercat is I could come in here on this hillside and clean this debris out. You would not want to do that with a saw blade type head because the saw blade just does not like dirt and rocks. It's just inherent. Those blades are kind of expensive. They need to be sharp, and it's just not a good thing to be laying your saw blade down on the ground. It's just like if you have a guardrail like this, you could take your Timbercat over the guardrail and clean it out. The thing about the Timbercat and the buzz bar is you almost have to look at it as like a chainsaw. You want to try to cut your limbs as close to a 90-degree angle as possible, because that will give you the cleanest cut. Especially with the Timbercat, you want to try to get it up into that limb or into that knife, which means you want to be able to go into it as close to a 90-degree angle as you can. Now the advantage of the Timbercat when you're up in the air is that you can be moving it around to be able to get into the limb. Where with a saw blade, once you contact the wood, you don't want to go and move the head at all because it'll put that blade into a bind, and that's what can crack the blade. The Timbercat is available in a 5-foot, so it's basically going to give you the same width of cut as your 60-inch rotary mower, and a little bit more cut than what a 50-inch rotary mower will give you. Again, I just like the Timbercat better than the saw blade type of head because of the fact that you can lay it down on the ground if you wanted to. You could clear out a hillside, and it's not as prone to being damaged because of the fact that it's a very simple machine. The blades are made out of tungsten steel. This thing is slow. When you first look at it, you're going to say, darn, that thing is slow. It cycles 1 time per second. And it's just basically a cylinder underneath that box that pushes and pulls, moving the bottom blade. The one thing that I have found with tractors is that you have to go very slow. And that was one of the reasons why we came out with the saw blade head. With the Timbercat, you need to run your tractor as slow as you can possibly run it. Low, low. If you have a creeper gear, putting it in creeper gear is the way you would want to run it. A lot of your bigger tractors that y'all have bought in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years do not have the creeper gear. So in some cases, the operator may find that he's having to use the shuttle shift to pop it into neutral to just slow the tractor down a little bit and then pop it back into forward. The other thing that's kind of unique about this particular boom that we're using it on, which is our 30-foot Maverick, is that I can actually rotate that boom in and bring it very, very close to the tractor. Which means I could literally, if I had overgrowth right along the side of the road, I could literally use this Timbercat very similar to a sickle bar if I wanted to, but I can cut bigger material than a sickle bar would. It does not cut grass. It only cuts woody material, that's all. One advantage that Alamo has with these types of heads, because we're finding, especially DOT customers, they want to have a head that does a specific function. A rotary is good for everything, but it doesn't do anything very well. We have a quick attach kit where you can actually change out your heads without the use of tools, without the loss of oil, and you can do it in a matter of minutes. It's just like a backhoe quick attach where you can change out your tools on the end of the backhoe by just curling into it and putting a pin. All of your hoses become quick disconnects when you go to the quick attach kit. Now they're kind of unique quick attach, and I guess when you say quick attach, these couplers actually don't make it quite as quick as I'd like it to be, because they're safety T-lock type of couplers where you've got to push, pull, and twist all at the same time and then unscrew it. And the reason we had to go that route is you don't want to be up there in the air and have a limb tear one of these off or something. So there's no way that one of these can be pulled off, because you've actually got to unscrew it once it disconnects. With that, I guess what I'm going to do is see if anybody has any questions on the Timbercat. I guess the way that we're going to do this is we're going to run the Timbercat for a few minutes, let y'all see what it'll do. Then we're going to go and change this head over to my saw blade head, and while we're doing that, y'all are going to go over with the Tiger and go over that head in the machine. So does anybody have any questions? All right, let's do it.